What's going on, kids and kiddos? It is Kiku and Aaron. We are reviewing The Suicide Squad. We have both seen it over the weekend. I went on premiere night. Aaron went Saturday?
Sunday.
Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
You went to go see it for you and the Lord.
Yeah. Somebody's got to be doing the Lord's work.
That was you. Okay. We'll make this a religious program then. Aaron will be the shepherd. So, a lot of controversy about this movie, right? Going into it, the aggregate scores were absolutely terrible, not only on Rotten Tomatoes, but Metacritic as well. Funny enough, coming out of the movie, many fans were delighted, delectably delighted about what they saw. Aaron, what did you think overall about Suicide Squad?
I like how you mentioned Metacritic, man. What a joke. Overall, I liked it. It was a good, fun movie. I got out of it the same thing, same feeling when I walked out of Apocalypse, X-Men Apocalypse. Kind of low expectations, but walked out liking it. It was a fun movie. I mean, what do you want to do? The shorter list is probably stuff that we liked about it. You want to do that first, or you want to go through the stuff that we didn't like about
it? I think it's gotten hammered enough in the press. So why don't we go through the stuff that you liked about it? What did you like specifically?
Like I told you the other day when we talked for a little bit about it, man, I really did like the Joker.
Bullshit.
He was my favorite part, man. I don't know. Maybe it's just a little personal bias towards the Joker character in general. I just really liked Leto's take on it. I liked that different view of the Joker. It was a little twisted to me. Yeah, maybe a little bit over the top with the whole, gangster vibe that he was putting off.
A little.
Yeah.
That dude had more chains than MC Ren in the 80s. He had more gold than LL Cool J in Mama Says Knock You Out. He had way more open chest than John Travolta in Staying Alive.
Okay. All right. I thought you were gonna finish up with a Mr. T reference because gold chains and open chest. But
man, I can't believe I missed that. I cannot believe I missed that.
No, I get what you mean, man. But just taking that, like the aesthetics off of him, his actual acting portrayal of the Joker, I really dug it, man. Like I said, and I'm sure you've seen it, and everybody that is watching at home or whatever the case is, I'm sure everybody's seen these posts that have come out saying Jared Leto's gotten enough footage that they cut out to where he could do his own Joker movie and all the extra footage they cut out. I personally think that would be awesome. I really could see a Jared Leto Joker movie being pretty good. Obviously, it would have to be dark and gritty, DC, but I liked it a lot. I liked Harley Quinn almost as much as I liked Leto's Joker. And I liked some of the side characters. Amanda Waller was good. Other than that, I just I have to circle back to it was a fun movie. That's about it. I didn't really go into it expecting to have like my mind blown, thinking that this was going to be, the best DC movie to date. I just went in expecting to see a good movie, and that's what I got out of it.
Okay. I disagree on the Joker. I felt Jared Leto was very underwhelming. His portrayal reminded me for some reason of Eddie Izzard from Mystery Men.
But I mean, underwhelming because who knows how much other stuff they had, with him in it that they took out of it. It didn't give us enough of the Joker, and obviously it didn't give me that same feeling when you and I went to see The Dark Knight in theaters. And I told you as soon as we walked out of there, you said, "What did you think?" And I said, every single time Heath Ledger was on screen, it was awesome. And then when he wasn't on screen, I sat there thinking, I can't wait till he comes back on screen. We didn't get that this time. we got very minimal, like, sprinkled tastes of Jared Leto's Joker. Not enough to really be like, you know, he was underused.
Yes and no, right? I think he's underused from what the trailers were showing us. I mean, that's been a huge point of contention right now in all nerd media, is that you know, we thought we were going to get a lot of Joker, but instead all we got was Joker Light, right? My issue with him being underwhelming is that watching his character, I kind of felt like anyone could have played the Joker. It could have been anybody doing what he was doing. And as you brought up when we went to go see The Dark Knight together, Ledger owned all of those scenes, whether he was in it for 2 seconds or if it was a long 15-minute scene. You know, he like just owned it. And I'm not going to compare Ledger to Leto. Like, that's just not a fair comparison, right? But Leto didn't own those scenes in any way, shape, or form that could have been his own. So for me, he was a letdown, especially with all the news that came out of the set that he was sending dead pigs to people. He sent a used condom to one person, blood to another.
Which was shown untrue. The condom part. I was going to say that. He didn't really do that. It wasn't used.
Well, it wasn't like a used condom, but, you know, he made it look used, right? Like,
yeah, all that stuff was unnecessary. But I don't think, when you're talking about Heath Ledger set the tone for that movie with his scenes. Like, whether he was in it for a few minutes or a few seconds, whatever, he set the whole tone of that movie. I don't think that Leto got enough screen time to start even setting a tone for the Joker.
I'll put it to you like this, and I agree with that point. However, the first time he walks into the room full of mob bosses, doesn't say anything, just walks in. He just had this look. And when Leto walked in, you know, I felt like he was goofy. Like, it was just kind of like, oh, whatever, you know, okay, it's a Joker. I got it. You know, Ledger's portrayal, and again, we are comparing them, and that's wrong because obviously Leto didn't have enough time. I am interested to see if he is going to do anything else with it, but for right now, that like weird, creepy way he talks is more goofy to me than anything. It really looks like he's trying hard to be the character and not being the character. I know the things that, and to, you know, I enjoyed the movie walking out, which is surprising because I talked so much crap about Suicide Squad leading up to the movie, famously calling it DC Super Smash Brothers as they added more characters and whatnot, which I still kind of believe that it was DC Super Smash Brothers because they were getting rid of people left and right. But I mean, I walked out happy with the film. Is it genre changing? No. Is it the film that DC has finally planted their flag in the ground and said, we are here to stay? No. Is it a mindless action film that does some justice to those characters? Yes, definitely. And that's really all that I think it could have been, especially with what, you know, with all the people that they cast. I don't know. But I loved Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. I know you're not a huge Harley Quinn fan. I'm not either. But I loved her portrayal. She definitely stole a lot of the scenes. Very nice to look at. Not even just physically, but the way that she approached the character, the way that she moved, she slinked around. It was a very good performance. Will Smith, I enjoyed Will Smith because it was Will Smith. If you like him in Bad Boys, right? Mike Lowry from Bad Boys, you will like his portrayal of Deadshot. Is it? I know what you're going to say, and I'm actually going to segue for you into that. I do not prefer Will Smith over, and I always forget the actor's name that played Deadshot on Arrow, and I really should remember it, but I feel that guy was a much better Deadshot. Brought way more to the role. But Will Smith very serviceable in that role, right?
Sure. Yeah, and exactly, man. It was Will Smith's bad boy character cosplaying as Deadshot to me. I didn't like it. You know, just not a huge Will Smith fan in general. I don't know. What you said about a mindless action movie. I almost feel like in 15 years or so, this is going to be a movie that we're like, man, that was an awesome, shitty movie that came out back in 2016. Suicide Squad, kind of like the 80s movies that are mindless action movies that have cheesy one-liners that we've grown.
Like Commando.
Stuff that we grew up with. That we know it is what it is. Like we know that they're kind of mindless, crappy one-liner action movies, but we love them for what they were. And this is probably going to head down that path in the future. Didn't like Will Smith. Go ahead. Yep.
What's up?
I said, didn't just to touch real quick. Didn't like Will Smith. I don't know if you want to get on the whole rant of Killer Croc.
I mean, we should. Killer Croc, to me, even when they showed the first set photos, I didn't like the look of Killer Croc, mainly because being a comic book nerd, watching the original animated series, anything, playing Arkham, all the Arkham games and whatnot, Killer Croc was always supposed to be like 7-8 foot tall, and we kind of have this normal sized guy. The actor whose name I can't pronounce, and I'm sorry about that, is a large man, but they made him too pedestrian, right? Just size wise for me. And then of course, we start getting into these racial stereotypes that a lot of people have been bringing up. Killer Croc wanting BET in his room for doing the mission. Firefly. Yeah, he was, a cholo, a Mexican gangbanger. But when they give them back their stuff, it was a little overboard with the chinos and the sports coat and whatnot, which I don't know. It is what it is. I didn't really notice it until somebody else pointed it out afterwards, because I was just more into the characters and what was going on screen. But Killer Croc, definitely a letdown. I expected more.
I felt like he was an unnecessary character, even being part of the Suicide Squad.
I kind of feel like a lot of them were unnecessary, which is a shame, because some of them had a lot of potential, right? Obviously, it's the Harley Quinn and Deadshot movie. Let's be specific, with a little bit of Rick Flag. Joel Kinnaman, who plays Rick Flag, I was not impressed with. Again, another actor that I kind of feel like anybody could have done that role and it would have been fine. Not that he wasn't serviceable in it, just for being the leader of the actual squad, I kind of felt like he wasn't the leader. It was definitely more Deadshot and Harley, which was a strange thing for me. And then you have like Diablo, who is a very interesting character once you start to learn his backstory. They don't spend enough time with him. Spoilers, he does die. Like at the end, after a really cool fist fight with terrible CGI. Then you have Katana, another interesting character who 9 million times do we hear about how the sword takes spirits, but we never really get to see that whole like backstory and whatnot.
Right.
So, I mean, a lot of those characters were unnecessary for the movie. Like, it would have been the same movie without those characters, which is something Josh Finney from Neek the Podcast, my co-host, brought up, was that it could be the same movie without any of those characters. As long as you had Rick Flag, Deadshot, and Harley, would have been the same thing, which is sad because it's Suicide Squad, not Suicide Trio. So,
could you, off the top of your head, I was just curious, something I want to ask you earlier, because I am right there with you with Rick Flag. Just didn't care about him at all. Didn't do anything for me in the film. Is there somebody that you could think of off the top of your head that you would have thought would have done a better job as Rick Flag in this film?
Well, if you remember, originally Tom Hardy had signed on to be Rick Flag, and then he dropped out. There were rumors buzzing around that the reason he dropped out was that they didn't produce a script right away. And then the other rumor is that David Ayer wrote the script in 6 weeks, and Warner Brothers did not say anything about reshoots or anything, or rewrites, I should say. To tune it up, they just said, take this and go make the movie, which is not standard in the filmmaking industry. Usually you turn in a rough draft, and then, after a couple of rewrites, then you go to film. or you go into production. So if these rumors are true, Tom Hardy is not known to drop out of a role after accepting it. So I would not be surprised if there is some truth to that. Would Tom Hardy have saved this film? No. Would he have played a better Rick Flag? It's Tom Hardy. Yes, he would have. You know, it's one of those things. Rick Flag is a very vanilla character anyway. It would have taken maybe Brad Pitt, someone who can really command screen time, would have changed that role.
I was just looking at when I was in there and I was watching it, looking at the actor. I can't think of his name that did play Rick Flag.
Joel Kinnaman.
Joel Kinnaman. Okay. With his, just his like his size, height, body type, hair, everything. I was like, man, I feel like Alexander Skarsgård could have pulled this role off and done like way better with it.
Yeah.
That's just the first name that came to my head. After I left.
That's a very good name. He probably could have done something, but again, this is a movie where they try to fit too much into it. Which if we go into, like we said, we had a lot of fun with it. Both of us did. Me being a little more into the filmmaking side of things, as a film, it is a horrible mess. Editing, storytelling, there's almost no plot whatsoever. It's a film that tried to do way too much with too much going on, too many moving parts. One of the
Remind you of anything?
What's that?
Remind you of any films we've seen lately?
A lot of them. A lot of them. We're not going to drop any names, Batman vs Superman. Anyway, that's like a horse that's just been beaten to death, resurrected, beaten to death again, and then resurrected one more time just to be beaten to death for one good last shot. Right. Something that, and this was something that I think all of us said in the nerd community, anybody who does podcasting and whatnot, was that it's weird that they decided to do Suicide Squad so early on. And one of my theories, which became, not stemming from me, but I think it's an idea a lot of people had, was that this was DC's chance or shot to try to do a Guardians of the Galaxy. The problem with that is that Guardians really only focused on Peter Quill, and there was a little exposition on that behalf of the other characters telling their backstories, but they didn't really focus on it. They focused on the story that was there, right? Like getting the what was it, the Soul Stone or whatever it was, the Mind Stone, one of the stones. And they focused on the current things. With this one, they try to set up all these characters, which if you're going to kill some of them off, you don't really need to set up any backstory. That's just ridiculous. It takes time. It takes away from it. A lot of people like the fact that it jumped straight into, Enchantress just turning and being the bad guy. Enchantress and her brother are the goofiest villains I think I've seen in a modern comic book movie in a very long time.
Yeah, and it sucks because the beginning of the film with Enchantress, when they first started showing her swap over, it looks like awesome. They could have. Yeah, it looks like they really could have done something amazing with that role. And then we got wacky inflatable arm tube Enchantress, and it's just not a lot of. There wasn't a real sense of a threat as far as the main villain of the movie, which was the most disappointing part.
It's not even just the threat. It was like there was no motivation, right? Or we didn't know really the motivation. She wants to just turn everybody into pod people or bubbly head folk. We have no idea what the weapon is that she's creating, except that it does turn people into that, and then all of a sudden shoots lightning across the world.
If I'm not mistaken, there was literally like no mention of what that weapon that they were building was.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Like, you just have to, I guess, take it on faith that she's a villain and it's probably a world-dominating weapon. The other thing that also I thought was kind of weird and funny, like why the hell would you do that? If you did not pay attention fully to the dossier that was on the screen for maybe 3 seconds at the beginning of the film, you'd have no idea what her brother's name was. She never once mentions his name. None of the squad does. Amanda Waller doesn't. So, it's a fun film if you just take yourself out of it. You watch it, like I said, I'll go see it again. Probably this week sometime just to, kind of, rewatch it, see if I missed anything or whatnot. But coming from a fan, I liked it. I think people should go see it, check it out. from somebody who has studied film and who enjoys the whole point of critiquing, it is a mess. And if you are somebody who can't skip over plot holes or illogical arguments or just illogical framing and whatnot, then you're gonna have a hard time with this film. Not as bad as Batman versus Superman, but it's, well, I mean, comparatively, a lot of the rumors were saying that Warner Brothers stepped in and did the editing because David Ayer had a different version of the film initially that was darker, and Warner Brothers reacted to the fan reaction for Batman vs Superman and wanted to make it a little bit more lighthearted. Whoever they're using as an editor for film, they need to either fire that person or send them back to school, because there are a couple of scenes where it just jumps to the next scene with no reason or explanation whatsoever. And it just does not fit in like a chronological order.
No. And one thing that I wanted to fire off at you, I'm not sure, I can't remember if we talked about it the other day on the phone, but when I left the movie, a couple hours after watching it, we always compare things with Marvel and DC.
Right.
Because as far as film goes nowadays with comic movies, those are the only things we have to compare each other to.
Yeah.
And with what Marvel's doing with film, I know it's on a different level, but with what Marvel's doing with Netflix, that's what I thought of when I left Suicide Squad. I thought to myself, man, this could have made an incredible Netflix series, maybe 10 episodes, 12 episodes. The first, let's just say, how many members of the Suicide Squad are there? What, 7, 6, 7?
Something like that.
So the first 6, 7 episodes, each member gets their own episode, their own backstory, and then the last few episodes, you get them all together, building up to this final, conclusion of whatever they're going to base it on, whether it's Enchantress or whatever. I really think that the idea of Suicide Squad would have benefited much more from some sort of a series like this.
Well, I'm glad you said that. I don't remember. Do you watch Arrow at all?
I watched the first season about a couple months ago. I finally got into the first season, really enjoyed it, and probably got about halfway through season 2 when I started to kind of drift away from it, and then I just was like, I'm done, and I jumped into Flash.
Okay, so season 2, they start actually what you're talking about. Oliver Queen meets some of the Suicide Squad members, captures them. You hear some of their backstory within these episodes, and then there's an episode where Diggle actually leads the Suicide Squad with his she's the ex-wife at the time, becomes his wife again later on in the series. And they were from, I mean, this is rumor, and this is from what I gather watching the show, they were trying to set up Suicide Squad to become a TV show on the CW. Granted, it's not Netflix, but it would have worked so much better because they would have already had set up this entire squad throughout all of these seasons of television, and then they could have just had them, like for a 10-episode arc like Legends of Tomorrow. Instead, when they decided they were going to make the movie Suicide Squad, they told Arrow, you cannot use these characters anymore, kill them off.
Right. It's a shame too, man, because DC for a while there, and they still kind of do with what they're doing on the television side. Like, that's what they had going for them. Marvel had the films,
right,
and DC had these great television shows, and then Marvel was like, oh, guess what? We've got Netflix, and we've got shows that are even better than what you can put out on the CW. So, but like I said, yeah, that would have been cool for the CW. Maybe it would have been a lot more friendly, I guess, because it's the CW. But something like Netflix, or even if they've gotten a deal with, anything like an HBO, Showtime, something like that, where they could have done something with these, because when you think of these characters, these villains, these Suicide Squad members, I don't want to see them on the CW in their own thing. I want to see a little bit more raw action, like that, like we get from Daredevil and Jessica Jones. Something like we're going to get from Luke Cage and the shows that they have coming out on Netflix. That was my biggest thing. Like, I really think that it just would have been better done that way. But you know, we got the film, and it's a good film. I mean,
It is. It is. So, Aaron, final thoughts besides it's a good film. Are you suggesting it to friends? Are you recommending it to people you know that haven't seen it yet?
yeah, I've been recommending it to people that I know that are comic book fans and fans of comic book movies. For the casual moviegoer that, you know, doesn't really get into it as much as we do, but they still go see like the Avengers and stuff like that when it comes out. Like, you know, maybe you should wait till it comes out. You might not want to go spend the movie theater money on it, but I recommend it. Yeah, I do. I haven't not recommended a comic book movie since Fantastic Four. So,
All right. For me, because of the multiple people that I deal with, I have recommended it to a lot of comic book fans, to people who love film for film. I told them they're probably going to have a hard time with it. You know, you got to take yourself out of it. Suicide Squad is very much a film that needs to be experienced as a fan, not as a critic or not somebody who's going to look to see if the film is structured well together. I'm glad I went in as a fan instead of the normal, I'm going to pick this apart first and then see if I enjoy it afterwards. Because I had fun with it. And I think everybody I went with had fun with it. It was Jeremy Griggs from geeksgamers.com, the owner and operator of it, who has hated on almost every single DC film that's come out lately, said he even enjoyed it. So, you know, I give it, if I had to go on a scale of 1 to 10, probably about a 6.5 out of 10, 6.5.
right. Yeah, I didn't even take the time of the thought putting into rating it, just because I typically never do that. It's not something that I care to do. You know, I'm watching these films for myself. But if I had to, I'd probably right there with you if I were to do that. I think that's a deserving score.
Well, I think your whole review system is basically see it, don't see it, right? So,
right.
See
it for sure. And shout out to Jeremy too, like you just said, because that guy's got some awesome Alabama gear. So
he does. We like Jeremy Griggs a whole lot on this show. But guys, go check out Suicide Squad. If you've seen it, don't agree with us or do agree with us, drop something in the comments. Of course, check out me and Aaron's reaction to the Wonder Woman trailer as we dove into it, dissected it, talked about how much we loved it. Also, check out all the comedy videos. And if you're local in Pensacola or thinking about moving to where I happen to reside, I do have a series called The Nerds of Pensacola, interviews with people who help support the nerdy community here. With that, guys, have an awesome week. Check out the new thing that's coming out, reaction to the Luke Cage trailer that just dropped, which will be airing soon. And with that, have a good week and keep it nerdy.
Shout out to your V-Man.